right, everybody, welcome back to another thought-provoking episode of Think About It Thursday. I'm your host, G. Lacey. Tonight's topic, we're going to pick up the controversial case of Roe versus Wade. Before I get started, here's some background details on the case, just in case if nobody don't know exactly what's going on in the case. Here's a Google fact. Roe versus Wade, 1973, was a landmark decision of the U.S. Supreme Court in which the court ruled that the Constitution in the United States generally protects the liberty that you choose to have an abortion. So in this case, it's going to shape the legalization of abortion. Now, the two individuals involved are Jane Roe. Roe brought a class action challenging the constitutionality of the Texas criminal abortion laws, which prescribe in procuring or attempting an abortion, except the medical advice for the purpose of saving a mother's life. In other words, her body, her decision. The other individual is Henry Wade. He was the top law enforcement official. Roe wanted to challenge his law and his authority should he choose to exercise it to prosecute her if she underwent an abortion. Here's a quick clip to inform you a little further on the case. Little T.
Most Supreme Court decisions are granular, little noticed interpretations of the law and Constitution, but a few are landmarks. Roe v. Wade was a landmark. It effectively legalized abortion across the United States. Here are the facts and players in the case. Jane Roe was actually Norma McCorvey. She was a Texan in her early 20s who wanted to terminate an unwanted pregnancy in 1969. Abortion was legal in Texas at the time, but only for the purpose of saving a woman's life. That was not the issue for McCorvey. Her life was not at risk. She tried unsuccessfully to get an illegal abortion and was referred to two attorneys interested in challenging anti-abortion laws. The Wade in Roe v. Wade was Henry Wade, the district attorney of Dallas County, who enforced that Texas abortion law. McCorvey soon filed a case against him. The Supreme Court agreed in 1971 to hear the case, and on January 22, 1973, struck down the Texas law in a 7-2 decision. Justice Harry Blackmun wrote for the majority opinion and declared a woman's right to privacy under the 14th Amendment superseded a state's right to ban abortion. The court set different rules for each trimester. In the first trimester, the choice to end pregnancy was entirely up to the mother. In the second trimester, the government could regulate but not ban abortion in order to protect the mother's health. In the third trimester, the state could prohibit abortion to protect a fetus that could survive outside the womb, except when the mother's health is in danger. Justices Byron White and William Rehnquist dissented. They basically held the argument of privacy went far beyond the intentions of the constitutional framers, an argument that could signal the grounds for challenges to Roe. The two justices also stated the court's decision did not stick to the specific facts of this case because Roe was not in her first trimester at the time of the litigation. Public opinion was quickly shifting. In August 1972, Americans opposed legalized abortion, 46 to 42%. But by April 1973, it was 52 to 41 in favor. In the years since, Roe's been modified but not overturned. A notable example was in 1992, a case called Planned Parenthood versus Casey. For all intents and purposes, this is the new standard by which abortion cases are judged. The focus this time wasn't privacy, it was roadblocks, which had been intentionally set up to make it harder to get an abortion. In a 5-4 ruling, the court said restrictions are unconstitutional if they place an undue burden on a woman. Support for Roe v. Wade remains strong. A Kaiser Family Foundation poll in June 2018 found that 67% of Americans do not want the Supreme Court to overturn the ruling, while 29% do. The question now, of course, is what the Supreme Court will do with the solid conservative majority.
All right, now that we watched the clip, as of recently, the case has been overturned. How do we feel about this particular case being overturned? Want to start off with Bird? You want to start first, big dog?
I'm really not that familiar with any of this. I kind of just like not ignorant, but I'm just really not educated on this whole situation. But I do believe women's body, women's choice. They can't force someone that is 10 years old molested by Uncle Johnny to keep a baby, and that's not fair. Or someone gang raped or raped, and you can't force someone to do that. So it's about my only input, to be honest.
Got you. I understand that, big dog. Uncle D, you want to give your opinion?
I think part of the problem is when they was making this ruling and it was trying to modify this law or try to put things in perspective, they gave too many options. I think there should have been one option: woman's body, woman's choice. So that's where I stand with that.
Tanya?
Okay. I, for the record, do not believe in abortions, but I do believe in a woman's right to choose. Problem came where they set the levels of parameters. Well, the third, the second, and the final trimester, first, second, and third. That was a setup for the Republicans to constantly go back and try to put laws in place that would effectively ban abortion, for them to be able to take it to the Supreme Court to challenge it. They went from first trimester to second trimester to third trimester. Now you got these states putting in laws where they are at the point of conception, legal conception, I would say. And then it's based on Roe was put in place based on privacy acts, when it should have been argued for rights, for equal rights. Because it was placed on the Privacy Act, with them overturning Roe, now everything else that falls under the Privacy Act, the laws like contraception, the right to love who you want to love, interracial marriage, same-sex marriage, all of that comes into play where they can overturn and take rights away from people that we've had, like Roe. Roe's been in place for like 50 years, and it's the first time that the government has taken a right away from people that had that right. So everything
Well
else
put.
falls
Very
into place.
informative. Just in
Women's
case.
rights, minority rights, everything else falls into place.
That was well put and very informative in case anybody was missing details from the case. Uncle Rob, would you like to speak
I
on how
think
you feel
that,
about the case being overturned?
and I just believe in that a woman should have her rights still. That's really all I'm going to say about that. I think it's unfair.
Auntie?
I think she's not able.
She's in the store. She said she was just gonna listen.
Godmom, you want to give a go at your opinion on it?
Yeah. I think it's unfortunate that a group of men who have no uteruses are making choices for women and not even concerned with any aspect of the mother's or family's lives of that it would impact. So it would never hurt them in a way that it would hurt other women. So I find a great fault in that choice. Well, not of women not having a choice and now being put in predicaments where they have to travel hundreds of miles out of state with money that they don't have, extra money that they don't have, to stay in another state, to get services from another state and then even have their aftercare in another state, that adds up. Who has money for that? Even if you do have means, that's an expensive trip. Flights are up the roof, gas is up the roof. So it just impacts a lot of different aspects of a person's life, that a person who has no bearing on what you do day to day or on in your living situation now has infringed upon your life and your trajectory of your life or your family's life. I don't agree with that.
They're not even thinking about it on a humanity aspect on it. They're just thinking of it on a political aspect, the one up,
Yeah,
the one.
it's all political and even religious, but your religion is not supposed to be infringed on anybody else's life. So yeah, I find a lot of fault with that. It's definitely political and religious, but I think
I mean,
it's really political under the umbrella of being religious.
Yeah.
I think we're going to run into an issue too where it's going to be sort of a witch hunt, because in these situations, if mom or the prospective mom or the person that is seeking an abortion, if they're found to have done so outside of the state in which they banned it, they're saying that they could be brought up on charges. So I think that now you have to take that risk, spend money that you don't have, and then live your life in fear that someone's going to come to your door and arrest you because you did what was that you felt was good for both you and your family. Most of all, the woman. So again, I go back to what Bird said earlier. So if this woman is molested by her family member or an older person, they have to keep the baby. If this person's raped, they have to keep the baby. So now again, as I said before, who's going to take care of these unwanted children? Who's going to assume this cost for taking care of them? Because if you don't allow these women to get abortions, here's the other risk that you have. There's going to be health issues because these women might be abandoning these babies in the street. These women might take to going back to the archaic value when they start deciding that they want to try to perform abortions themselves. We're going back to coat hangers and alley abortions and stuff.
Drinking bleach.
See, crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I think that we should arm the citizens and give them lessons on how to use the weapons and teach sex ed classes. Maybe that wouldn't be an issue with the whole thing. But I'm with the pro-choice thing too. I kind of straddled the fence. I said this last time in this conversation. Dukes, would you like to give your input on it?
I agree with everyone else is saying. Definitely, I was reading up on something where it stated that the doctor that performs the procedure is going to be brought up on charges. And I'm just more or less like, this is really serious. This is like they're turning this into, I guess, what they felt like it was all along. But I mean, I really, really support it's a woman's choice.
So again, guys, think about this, right? This all started in Texas. When it came back to it, it was Texas that was heading the charges, right? This individual was a Texan as well. So I feel like that's like one of the main bases of the good old boys. So these people were defeated way back then. And so now, fast forward to the present, it seems like they waited until the time was right, and it was the right temperature of political environment to make these necessary changes. See, again, I have to wonder that MAGA, Make America Great Again, does this involve making America great again because you're taking away Americans' rights? which was supposedly laws that was put in place and stuff. So if you start changing this laws, what's next?
That's the point. They want to change the laws that they didn't agree with that was put in place to begin with. Like they wanted to be the men running the country and the men making all the laws again. You know, the women didn't have rights back then. Minorities didn't really have rights back then. We had to fight for everything.
I don't know if we're going back to plantation type slavery, but I think we're going to have some form of slavery like indentured slaves, because I feel like that they're going to try to hold these women accountable. If they can't pay to take care of these kids, what are you going to do? Have them go to work until they can pay off a medical bill that you guys are going to run up because you're forcing them to have these babies? You got to pay for prenatal care and all this other stuff.
Oh, can I build on that? So with that being said, it already will be a form of slavery because they'll be going to jail.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go to jail, when you do prison time or you do federal prison time, you can't vote. So you're already you marked off a lot of people off the roster. So and then in prison they build stuff, they make stuff for cheap money. So it's already geared towards that slavery type mentality. Because they're building prisons like they're building these high rises all over the place. So it's already in the works. There's
Private
plans.
prisons.
Pipeline to prisons.
Well, as outsiders looking in, I think we have little to go off of, so we're just scratching the surface. Here's some facts from boundforlife.com. And please feel free to do your own research. Besides being immersed in eugenics, Roe versus Wade was founded on lies. Jane Roe was really Norma McCorvey. I'm sorry, I don't know how to say her name right. This single parent woman was used by two lawyers to legalize abortion. She never knew anything about the case or the proceedings except that she could get an abortion when the case was over. She never went through with the abortion. The first thing she heard about the case was on the news when Roe versus Wade was decided and the abortion was made legal. Roe versus Wade's companion case, Doe versus Bolton, which made abortion legal in all 3 trimesters of pregnancy and for virtually any reason, had a similar situation. Mary Doe's real name was Sandra Cano. Her husband was in jail. Her kids had been placed in foster care. She was pregnant at the time, and the lawyers approached her, and she agreed to be Doe. She thought that it was to get a divorce and get her children back. They tried to convince her to have an abortion, but she wouldn't agree to have one because she didn't believe in abortion and she thought abortion was wrong. She had no idea that her case would become the infamous Doe versus Bolton. So the roots of abortion are stemming from eugenesis, which go in this order: sterilization, birth control, and abortion, all put in place to exterminate a feeble-minded race. Does anybody want to comment on these facts?
Who is this feeble-minded race that they're referring to?
That was my question.
I mean, if you look into eugenics, you look into the word eugenics and eugenesis, you're going to see it pop up a lot around doctors and scientists and people that are making decisions in our life and politicians and all that stuff.
That's the professionals. But what is the targeted group that they're talking about?
I didn't want to say it just up front, but it's the minority. It's people of color.
So
people
is it
that
just
they see unfit to have children.
But white women are the top
And
abortion
this is
getters.
a reason why they overturned it too, because the statistics change as of recently. The old statistics used to be that they were trying to make it that all black people are the ones getting the abortions. That's why they have so many Planned Parenthoods, and you can get an abortion in a neighborhood near you.
Mm. Sometimes I feel like these are diversions. If I tell you this group of people are prone to this type of behavior and in financial assistance and handouts and violence, that's going to make you pay attention to them. That frees me up to do whatever I want. I can basically walk in the back door or the front door if you're paying attention to what everybody else is doing and not paying attention to me.
That's whole.
That's like some of these statistics that I hear about when they say that with these mass murders, that it's a one set race that is causing all these problems. And when like the black on black crime, when it's the statistics is most people put crime on in the white community when they try to say that the black folks come in the white community and cause all this crime. The statistics say that most people in those areas, in the white areas, they're committing crimes on their own people, but they're trying to say that it's the minority.
I don't believe that. Well, you see it on TV. You know it's not the minority doing these mass shootings. It's definitely not us. That's crazy for them to say something like that. Do we all know who is the biggest abortion distributor in America? The people that give the most abortions in America? It's Planned Parenthood, right? So the whole premise of legalizing abortion was supposedly to take the back alley into the clinics. So that it's safe, legal, and rare, right? Well, Margaret Sanger is a believer in eugenics, and she's the founder of Planned Parenthood. She's the largest abortion provider in the United States. Here's a clip on the founder of the largest abortion provider in the United States.
Let me see. There's no volume.
It's no volume. Tech.
Okay, I thought it was just me.
Exterminate the black race. Others are trying. As founder of the American Birth Control League, which later became Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger was no doubt a controversial figure with disturbing views on eugenics, race, and population control. While some argue she even wanted to exterminate the black race, others are trying to erase that part of her past.
The Mike Wallace Interview. In the eyes of some, Margaret Sanger has been a heroine. In the eyes of others, she's been a destructive force.
In her own words, Sanger pushed for a society that limited births to those she deemed fit to have children.
I think the greatest sin in the world is bringing children into the world that have disease from their parents, that have no chance in the world to be a human being, practically. Delinquents, prisoners, all sorts of things just marked when they're born.
In 1916, Sanger opened the country's first birth control clinic. As a member of the American Eugenics Society, she advocated improving the genetic composition of humans through controlled reproduction of different races and classes. She often wrote about the issue in the journal she founded, called the Birth Control Review. In 1919, writing,
I personally believe in the sterilization of the feeble-minded, the insane, and the syphilitic. The most urgent problem today is how to limit and discourage the over-fertility of the mentally and physically defective.
Many point to a 1923 New York Times interview as proof of Sanger's racist motives, in which she referred to people as weeds, saying,
"It means the release and cultivation of the better racial elements in our society and the gradual suppression, elimination, and eventual extirpation of defective stocks, those human weeds which threaten the blooming of the finest flowers of American civilization."
Hayden Ludwig, an investigative researcher, has extensively studied Sanger's life and writings.
She talked about the need for race betterment through controlling these weeds, basically undesirable people.
In 1939, after opening another clinic in Harlem, the birth control activist launched the Negro Project, an initiative supported by Black leaders, such as civil rights activist W.E.B. Du Bois. Critics claim the program used the pretense of better health and family planning for poor Blacks in the South as an attempt to limit the Black race. Ludwig says some on the left grapple with Sanger's past and how to interpret her legacy.
They know when she writes about human weeds, they know that it's repulsive. They know it's disgusting. The left will never abandon Margaret Sanger because if they do, she's the foundation of so many of their views.
Sanger once shared her vision for a preferred race at a women's branch of the Ku Klux Klan, writing in her autobiography,
"Always, to me, any aroused group was a good group."
Despite those views, liberals praise Sanger's work while ignoring her history.
I admire Margaret Sanger enormously. Her courage, her tenacity, her vision. I am really in awe of her.
Ryan Baumberger, founder of the Radiance Foundation, says abortion proponents are working to clean up Sanger's past and what she stood for.
They have to reinvent her every time they talk about her in order to justify their celebration of her.
Former Planned Parenthood Director Abby Johnson says those inside the abortion industry are trained to overlook Sanger's racist views.
They give you an answer like, well, I mean, yes, Margaret Sanger was a racist, but everybody was a racist back then. You accept it because she is your hero. And she has to be your hero. You cannot question Planned Parenthood.
In 1997, Stephen Mosher of the Population Research Institute wrote about the push to repackage Margaret Sanger in the Wall Street Journal.
The reason I call it the repackaging of Margaret Sanger is because after the Nazi regime destroyed the legitimacy of eugenics forever, they then went back and said, oh, she was just an early feminist. She was just an early supporter of family planning. No, she wasn't. Now, she was a supporter of giving IQ tests to people. She was in favor of using those IQ tests to determine who should be sterilized and who should have children.
In a response titled The Demonization of Margaret Sanger,
Right. Anybody want to give their comments on the founder of Planned Parenthood?
Doesn't that spill sound similar? Haven't we heard that before in like history, like her agenda and stuff like that? When I heard her speaking what she stood for, it sounded like Hitler, it sounded like Mussolini, sound like Trump and other people that are believing like a master race. So you're therefore prejudiced to anybody that don't share your views, don't look like you, don't sound like you, don't live like you do. Seems like we need a new song.
I believe that Hitler might have something to do with the whole creating of birth control, and I think they got their ideas from Hitler.
No, because he talks about eradicating the so-called inferior
race
group. But let's just come out and say what it is. That's just prejudice. It's racism. They the interviewer said she was talking about Black people.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I heard. I don't know if anybody else heard that, but
yeah, I
they,
heard that.
she's referring to Black people. So again, because we are I don't know how people are so much in fear of the so-called inferior.
Well, if you still doubt abortion being rooted from eugenics, here's some statistics on the subject. 78% of Planned Parenthood clinics are in the minority community. One. Two, according to Gut Matcher Institution, an African American is 3 times more likely to have an abortion than a white woman. And we know those statistics have changed now. Hispanic women are 2 times more likely than to have an abortion than a white woman. Those statistics change too. African Americans constitute 12% of the national population and have 32% of abortions. And it's somewhere close in those numbers now, but it's still low for us and more higher for the white community. Caucasian, sorry. For everyone Black child born, 3 are aborted. 80% of unborn babies diagnosed with Down syndrome are aborted. The RU482 pill was created by the same company that created Zyklon B gas for the Nazi death chambers. There are 45% more sterilizations amongst African American women and 30% more sterilizations amongst Hispanics than amongst white women. Not one school-based Planned Parenthood clinic is located in a white majority school. Those was the last facts. How do you guys feel about those facts, those statistics?
So white girls are running to the inner city to get their abortions? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
And why
that's where
would
they
that
come from.
Go ahead, kid. Go ahead,
No,
kid.
and that's where drugs and all, and that's why we have the drug infested area too, because most of those people don't live in the city and they're coming from far and wide. So, but it's us. It's not
but
them. It's us.
the Planned Parenthood just ain't about abortion though. It's about contraceptives. It's about.
Of course, it's about more than that, but that's what they're focused on of making Planned Parenthood look like the boogeyman and the bad
They make
man.
most of their money from abortions. That's why we were including them. And they're the number one distributor of abortions in America.
Okay, but either way, these stats are like they're tainting them, because if the urban community's numbers is high, and if it's accessible to everybody outside our community, of course the numbers are going to be higher in our community, but you're not marking it down as these are people outside this community that's coming here to get these services. You're just writing it down as this is the people of the land, the people of color that are running up these rates and that are making these stats. So these are not actually they're not being truthful about this, because our numbers would be high. Their numbers, the suburban areas, would be high too if you was allowed to go there and receive services. If you had the means to travel to those communities and receive services, if you was aware of where you can go, the locations. If you don't live there, you pretty much don't know there, because they're a little bit about, I believe, secretive about it, about a lot of services that they provide. So I think those numbers are trumped up.
If it was in their communities, they would have realized that they're the ones getting the abortions more than the African American community faster.
I think they do realize, and it's like I said earlier, if I tell you something's happening over there, you're going to pay attention to there as opposed to what's happening here, right in front of you. So I can it's a diversion.
Yeah, yeah, I believe so too.
Well, if you're just joining us, we're talking about the Roe versus Wade situation, the case. Uncle T, how you doing, man?
What up, Gregory?
You want to give your opinion on the case being overturned?
Yeah, it's all about, like Dave just said, they they try to get you focused on stuff so they can, your back is turned. You're not paying attention. You're not looking at them, watching them. And while your back is turned, they're doing slick stuff behind your back and changing stuff around. And once you turn and look, well, I thought that was there. Nah, they switched it and changed it real quick before you turn back to look. And what they're trying to do is they go back to controlling the women, not having a voice, and take away their independent, their independence of what they what what they want to do, as far as having a kid or not having. They just want people all these. See, that's open up doors for the raping stuff to come back, even though it ain't never left. But it'll be more of that going on because of, this Roe v. Wade done been taken away. And if you notice, since they started focusing things on what Donald Trump was doing and what he was saying, you notice they've been very brazen, doing a lot of stuff, it was just another damn shooting. So they being brazen out here, like we like, try to say something. This is how we're taking back our country. We're gonna be strictly a white nation and whatnot. That's what they believe. But they just don't understand that there's no more of no natural goddamn races. There's no more, it's all mixed up. Every race is all mixed up. You got some of everybody in each race now. It's not no pure race.
I think the easiest way to divide the people is to bring about division. So if we make this about a white or black thing or a rich or poor thing, it's not paid. It takes away from what it really is. They're trying to go back to the days where, as Timmy stated earlier, where women were to be seen and not heard. So if I keep you at home barefoot and pregnant, you will have no bearing. You won't have no influence on what's going on in the work world and stuff like that. Women have made the shift. It's a woman's movement. So again, I don't feel like that this is by chance. I feel like this is designed. This is to try to knock women off of their peg, so to speak, off course. So I said this before. I think that women need to stay the course. I think that since you guys have found your voice, you need to continue to be heard. If you become silent now, that would undo everything that y'all done before now. It will give them exactly what they want.
And the other women that fought and made way for women to be able to do what they're doing now. There's a lot of women that, sacrificed and went through a lot of stuff that, the women of today don't have to go through because the women before them went through it. You
I'm
know,
curious to know what current female, you know, came up with agreeing with something as such. Curious to know if it's all males that are, you know, passing this.
that's what it is. It ain't no, the females are there against it. See, that's why they want to get rid of
So here's my statement.
There's some women who are supportive of this.
That's what I was about to say.
But they're supportive of it under the guise of religion.
Yes, I told you that. It's under the guise of
Is the
religion.
majority women or is the majority men?
No,
And
it's the majority of men, but there's a
Yeah.
lot of women who are supportive of that ideal because they are, let's just say, Christian. They're Christians, and so that's what they believe, and they're going into a doctrine of religion and making that the blanket. But it's political and some other things as well.
So politically, when David says we as women need to keep our voice, you know, being heard, I feel as if, you know, when did our voice get taken away?
When you have the demographic, so you guys want to know who the demographic is that's voting for it. I'm inclined to believe it's the same individuals that felt that Hillary Clinton wasn't a good presidential representative because of whatever reason with their husbands instructed them to say and believe about this female. I feel like it's that same demographic. Those that can be coerced, those that can be influenced by their husbands and the males around them's political beliefs. That's who I think those women are.
That's a small percentage, like 29% of the country.
But they're in positions of authority.
Power. Yeah.
Right.
They're in
And that's the
positions of
concerning
authority.
part. And that's the concerning part because like again, no one never said we wanted to take this away, but those voices, I guess, that voted and got it overturned. So for me, it's like, say we do get together and we start to make a noise about it. Again, my question will remain the same. Whoever said that we wanted this overturned? Like who?
It's the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court makeup is lopsided now because they have the majority of conservatives up there over independents and Democrats. You know what I mean?
But I want to know how you determine a law by your religion. You're supposed to be determining by
what they're not
the law.
supposed to do. That's why President Biden said that the Supreme Court has been radicalized because they're not supposed to impose their own beliefs on any judgments that they make. But that's what they have done.
They have.
But here's the thing too. You take that away, right? What's the deal with your kids? You people who's making these laws, is that going to pertain to your fucking daughters? Is that going to pertain to your granddaughters, your granddaughter's daughters? Because
they'll just have some hidden doctor somewhere for theirs.
Absolutely not. They have private doctors for whatever kid that they want.
Exactly. They will have a doctor for this.
So what happened to HIPAA law and stuff like that? So again, how did we just bypass all of that? You know, because your conversations, your visits to the doctor, that's private information. So anybody disclosing that type of information should be brought up on charges. Shouldn't not supersede that.
Part of the problem with that is that you got a lot of these companies that have these apps that track your menstrual, that track when you're fertile and all of that aren't abiding to the HIPAA laws. You get what I'm saying?
Do you guys still utilize those apps?
I don't utilize those apps, But
Because
that's
go ahead.
something that they are trying to get the law to pass where they have to abide by the HIPAA laws.
You know, I'm gonna say this right again. This is just a smoke screen because they don't care about religion any other time. They remove religion from church. Excuse me, from they're trying to remove it from church. They removed it from school and everything else. So why is religion a factor now? Because how many women is on the Supreme Court?
One.
No, there's more than one woman on the Supreme Court.
Two. There's actually two. There'll be three. Am I on mute? No, there's two right now, and there'll be no. That's a lie. There's three now.
And there'll be four. There's already four. She's been confirmed. So,
but she confirmed. Was she confirmed before or after the overturning of this law?
After.
She was just confirmed on Friday.
And her ideology is the same as the person that she's replacing.
And how many men?
So if there's 9, if there's about to be 4, it will be 5-4.
So it'll be 5 men and 4 women. So still the men still outnumber them. But again, I think that should have been one of those situations because it didn't pertain to the men. I think that
but you got Amy Colby, whatever her name is.
Barrett.
She voted to overturn Ray. See, 3 of them on the Supreme Court lied to the Senate when they had their
confirmations.
Right. Yes. They lied and said that they honor precedent. And they went, when they got up there and they came up, they just completely obliterated precedent.
Okay, right. Not to interrupt, but I agree with the speaker that just spoke. This was all planned, and Trump awarded her in. You know what I'm saying? And this was already going to happen. Trust me. It was already being planned. Clarence Thomas's wife was in on it as well. That persuaded him. It was already a plan. And because of his ways with Russia, if you follow what's going on, all the other countries are trying to take control and be in control. You understand that? And Trump was setting up the same thing for the US of A.
Clarence Thomas to me is Uncle Tom. He's straight up Oreo. He wrote the facts of Black people. Affirmative action helped him get himself into law school and all that. And he is what we need to be watching out for, those type of people like him, because when they put those type of people in, they turn around and stab their whole Black community in the back because he figured he got a white.
No, because he was tried for assaulting or sexually harassing a sister. And he got away with that.
Yeah, I think 4 of them on that. I think Kavanaugh, Barrett, Thomas, and Alito, all of them that lied on that confirmation, and what's his name, Thomas, who is leaking information to his wife for her to go out there and drum up the base. They all need to be brought up on charges.
Good luck with that one.
I agree, but I don't think the Senate is going to do it. So
they don't have the balls. These people
no, because they agree with what's going on. So they're not going to press charges. So
you can't bring about the necessary change when there are devices already in place to block it. I mean, again, we can easily say this is happening because of Trump, but I just think that Trump and others are following through with a plan that was devised a long time ago.
Yeah, that's what I just said. It was already in the works. It was already in the works. And what they did was just, detach themselves from it and let the different states deal with it. And all of that is created. Now you can already see the lines in between the lines. If the different states are making their own choices about their communities and people, you just look at the South versus the North.
I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna say go back to something earlier, guys. Whereas Tanya, I think you said earlier about the different type of people that this new version of this law is going to affect. You said the same-sex marriages, gays, and people's rights to other things. So women's rights and things of that nature. I would say this. Where are all the voices? Where are all those voices? Is the LGBTQ plus community gonna team up and walk alongside, march aside women's rights, or are they gonna stay separated from this?
They will.
Starts to affect them.
Well, let me they gonna stay separate, and then what always happen is that the people always support the LGBT community, but they don't support everybody else. Now, watch when things jump off. If they should go and ban stuff, watch how much the people back the LGBTQ community. But you won't see them nowhere in to try to help.
This country is about to be in chaos because they've already done overturned Roe versus Wade. They already done blocked them to be able to effectively deal with climate change. And when they come back into session next year, they're gonna be judging on affirmative action.
So okay.
But the thing about the affirmative action is white women benefit more than black people. So if people are shooting themselves in the foot over things that they don't really know what the hell they benefit from.
And
so
this is all stemming from the replacement theory.
Yeah.
Who are they replacing?
Themselves.
They saying that we are replacing,
the minority majority levels are changing.
Yep.
That's because that was an illusion. That was an illusion to begin with. I keep telling you, the minority will always be seen as the minority until they realize and embrace that they are the majority that have the true authority. That's the reason why.
So it's safe to say that we're all pro-choice here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, to those of us that are pro-choice, here's a young man with a story. Let's listen to it. Roll the clip, Lou T.
So to say it with me, say life has purpose. Say it like you mean it. Life has purpose. Woo! The circumstances of our conception don't change the condition of our worth. Some say that I should have been aborted. At least that's what the world says about people with stories like mine. See, I'm the 1% that is used 100% of the time to justify abortion. My birth mom experienced the horror and the violence of rape, but rejected the further violence of abortion. So that's why I'm actually able to here today to be able to speak about the dignity of every human life. I'm alive today because of a courageous birth mom. She chose to be stronger than her circumstances. We all can be stronger than our circumstances, no matter what the crisis, no matter what the issue. I grew up adopted and loved in a tiny little family of 15. I have 6 brothers and 6 sisters. 10 of us were adopted in a multiracial family. Grew up in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. 13 kids, and yes, it was a little crazy at home. My parents are the pro-lifers who don't care about people after they're born. Pro-lifers are the ones who care about people after they're born. Amen? See, the thing is, when you love Jesus, the natural outflow of loving Jesus is loving people and sacrificing what you need to sacrifice, sacrificing yourself so that you can bring what was once broken to wholeness. And so here I am, believing and declaring that life has purpose. Let's say it with me again. Say, life has purpose. In fact, I recently just celebrated my birthday. It was on May 5th, which is known as El Cinco de Mayo. We call it in my home El Cinco de Rayo. And I love the fact that I'm a dad to 4 awesome kiddos, 2 of whom are also adopted, 3 of whom were unplanned, all 4 of whom are loved like crazy. My birth mom's singular decision will cause beautiful reverberations for generations. You know, I'm reminded of a comment made recently by an Alabama senator, Senator Vivian Davis Figures, who called those like me the residue of the rapist. I'm not the residue of the rapist. I'm the resilience of my birth mom. And the only father that I've ever known is Henry Bomberger, a man who could have lived a normal life, but chose an extraordinary one as he stepped up to love those that other men abandoned. I stand here to speak for those who cannot fight for their own equality. Abortion is the leading killer in this country, outnumbering deaths from cancer, outnumbering deaths from heart disease. The racism that has fed the resistance to Alabama's Human Life Protection Act is astounding. I'm sorry, Emily Ratajkowski, she's a spokesperson for Planned Parenthood, who said that basically if black children aren't aborted, they're just going to go into the prison system. I've never been in the prison system, and the vast majority of black children have never been in the prison system. We reject the racism of the abortion industry. We reject the racism of Planned Parenthood. And by the way, Black Lives Matter, don't tell me that Black Lives Matter when you partner with the leading killer of black lives. Black lives matter in and out of the womb. We all matter in and out of the womb. So today we declare no more, because life has purpose. 54 years ago, black and white Americans didn't risk their lives to march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge for equality.
All right, how did we feel about the baby of the worst thing that could ever happen to you?
You see what happened? She put him up for adoption.
He's the exception and not the rule.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of kids that are put up for adoption that don't get adopted. There's a lot of kids that are put up and they're in the foster system.
You know what, Kiana?
Yes?
You know what? I think he's a pick-me person too. You know, get up there, you know, tell the people this and that, you know, make it look like that the Democrats are rolling with baby killers and all this. It's the same old story that the Republican is pumping out there. So now you got these idiots like him that get up there and start talking all this. Oh, you know, you sound phony when you bring in God into politics. God has nothing to do with politics. They all do this. Oh, God said this and this. Y'all full of nonsense bringing God into politics because he has nothing to do with politics.
Can I speak on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Only women can bear children, and that is for a reason. Okay. In the very beginning, there was a creator of whom whatever ethnicity feels that creator is. But there is a higher being that brought every human being into the world. Okay. As babies, we come into the world, we cry. Wah, wah. Why does the babies cry? Anybody ever think of that? Because we're born into sin, right? So there's a spiritual world, and then there's the world. And so it goes according. And those that believe are not affected by the decisions and what's going on in the world. You understand? We're in the world, but not of the world. Because again, when you think back about the creator, he has the final say. Things happen unknowingly
for a reason. And for those women that are raped or abused sexually by incest or family members or friends or strangers, that is God's will. Everything in this world according to his will. So even though we might reject that, even though that might look ugly and dirty the way it happened, for me, I believe, and this is just my opinion, it's still God's will. It is up to that woman. It is up to that woman to bring forth life. It is her choice, absolutely. She has that right. And I don't think anyone should be dictated or controlled or controlling a woman on making that decision because it's her body. And again, only women can bear children. Only women bring forth life. You understand? And so if the woman's option is to have an abortion, God deals with her. You know, that's not for the world to judge. You know what I'm saying? So every life counts according to what that gentleman was saying. He was right. His mother was the one that birthed him, not the rapist. He's resilient, not residue. He was right. But when you think about it, it still comes back to the creator, where you come from and where you return to. So some are aware and some are just gays because some of us live in the world and some of us live in a spiritual world. You're in the world, but you're not of the world. So it doesn't matter what the politicians and the way the world is swaying. None of that matters. And that's what I want to say. That's my opinion about it.
That was well put. In the light of Roe versus Wade, here's a person that was supposed to be terminated, and she's giving her opinion on the matter.
Abortion rights rallies held nationwide over the weekend as Roe versus Wade faces perhaps its biggest challenge in the Supreme Court session beginning this morning. And we're going to hear from the woman known as Baby Roe, speaking to our Lindsay Davis. Good morning, Lindsay.
Good morning to you, Robin. Good to see you all. This is a woman who has carried just an incredible burden for decades. Something that Shelley Thornton says she has tried to ignore, but it just won't go away. She has felt that people would blame her for the actions of Jane Roe, her biological mother, whose lawsuit gave women the right to have an abortion.
A lot of people didn't know that I existed.
For decades, she's been known simply as Baby Roe. Now, at 51 years old, Shelley Thornton is breaking her silence, talking exclusively to ABC News in her first broadcast interview.
Your mere conception brought about arguably the most controversial Supreme Court ruling in history. What's the impact on you now?
It doesn't revolve around me. I wasn't the one who created this law. I'm not the one who created this movement.
Her biological mother was Norma McCorvey, a.k.a. Jane Roe, a cleaning woman from Katy, Texas. Her desire to terminate that pregnancy caused Norma to file a lawsuit against the state of Texas. She never did have that abortion, and by the time the Supreme Court ruled in her favor in 1973, the baby had already been adopted and was 2.5 years old.
My whole thinking is that, oh God, everybody's going to hate me because everyone's going to blame me for abortion being legal.
What kind of weight was that burden for you to carry that for so many years?
I feel that it was always hard for me to form relationships with people because I felt like I was always holding something back. I still carry that. And I probably always will.
There have been several challenges to the ruling, but none as serious as recent legislation passed in Texas, effectively banning most abortions. This morning, a new Supreme Court term is set to begin, and the constitutional right of a woman getting an abortion will largely rest in the hands of a conservative majority on the bench.
And tonight we'll get into that abortion debate. You'll also hear Shelley talk about a fear that she still has about people on both sides wanting to use her as the face of their movement. We'll also introduce you to a sister that she never knew she had, another child that Norma had given up for adoption.
What was the last?
Wow. Would anybody like to comment on the baby of Jane Roe?
Well,
And y'all believe
Well,
that
she was pretty bold to come out, seeing that she felt like everybody was either out to use her or might be against her, you know. So I mean, I don't know if I would have been able, maybe I would have, you know. Like like someone said earlier, these children that are, I don't know, unwanted, or because I don't know, they're being put up for adoptions. You know what I mean? So if they're being put up for adoptions, then what is that saying? Is it a child that they really wanted? Or, you know, usually when people have babies, they keep their children. Unless
Um,
you're not ready to have your baby, you can't take care of your baby, you're not fit to be a mother to this baby. And again, it goes back to woman's choice of being a mother.
And I think it goes back to the creator. All things work according to God's will. So again, it is the choice of the mother, like I said, and whatever the reason is, it could be all those you just said. Maybe she feels that she can't take care of the child or can't provide like the child, whatever the reason is. There's a lot of kids that are abandoned, but those same very kids, they're all a blessing. They all count. And you don't know, out of those children that were abandoned, you know, they find love other places. Some get lost, surely. It's a mental psyche thing, you know. Some get lost, but some are just resilient. They're great people, and every one of them count. So again, everything is
well
according
put.
to God's will.
Never,
It's
never
just
said
that the woman, the
Sally.
mother, couldn't bear. What's that?
I mean, I'm not taking anything away from what you're saying, because what you're saying is on point. It's kind of supporting what I just said. Maybe
Yeah.
that's why they put them up for adoption, because they
Yes.
couldn't afford them, you know, or maybe they was raped, or
My
maybe
that's exactly was my question. She put up two kids for adoptions. I wanted to say, do it go back to what was her name, Margaret Singer or something? Is it fitting in her category where she said some people shouldn't have kids because they already know their kid's gonna come out be a criminal, a junkie, or whatever failure to society? Was it one of those situations?
Wasn't talking about her, but it's sort of there in that category. If we reverse the roles of her
Yes.
teachings, it would
Well,
make
can
sense.
I disagree with something? I mean, not every child feels like they are loved. And there are
right.
so
I
many
wanted to
suicidal
say that.
children. I mean, and I believe that there are, blessings, and God doesn't make mistakes, but there are a bunch of people who would disagree and feel like they are somebody's burden because nobody chose to love them.
Right,
Somebody put
right.
Mm-hmm.
them out there.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who are getting, especially if you're in foster care, who are treated like straight
Trash.
garbage for money.
Yes,
They
yes.
Mm-hmm.
they they would rather be they don't feel like they're a miracle. They don't feel like they're a blessing.
Yeah.
So all of this needs to be taken into consideration
Yeah.
when you are making choices with somebody else's life.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's what I was trying to get to, the whole opposite of it. You know, some people do come out on top and have a great, you know, experience with that whole adoption, or even being put in a home or something like that, you know, just temporarily. Some people do have great experiences, but then there's other people who are like tortured, traumatized,
Mm-hmm.
just can't come back, you know? And I'm not, again, I think that it starts with what you said. Yes, we're all here by with the Lord's child. You know what I mean? We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Him. But at the end of the day, once we get here and we all are surrounded by these choices that are being presented to us, it's the choices that matter. And if you take away the choices, then you're putting us all on one path, and that's not, I don't think that that's equal, and I don't think that that's fair, and I don't think that that's respectful. So I mean, I'm not taking anything away from the Lord, because I understand that, you know, He comes first, but I just feel like sometimes there has to be an alternative route for people who feel stuck, no
Well,
other place to go. And that's where abortions came in. If you don't feel like, it's not for everyone. If you are that one person that feels like, I cannot do this, I can't afford it, it wasn't the right time, this person raped me, how dare
That was
that
the purpose.
happens, that's them, that's that person's choice. I'm not
Right.
taking nothing away from the person who would have it and then put it up for adoption, and I'm definitely not taking it away from a person who chooses, I think this is the best thing.
let me jump in here. So I'm just going to go ahead and dive headfirst into this fray. So here's the thing: what I don't think anyone's touching right now.
Oh, my
Foster
mic
care,
was on. Can I say
foster,
something before you jump into it? Because I've been holding this in.
go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
And my mic was off, and I thought my mic was on, and I was back over here talking. God gives us free will. And yes, every person has a purpose, and all things work out for his good. But we have to remember that even with us being spirit, there's another type of spirit that was placed on this earth before we even got here.
Mm-hmm.
That is constantly out there trying to abort and thwart God's will and purpose that he has for individuals. Mm-hmm. Yes, if a person chooses to have an abortion, that person is going to have to deal with that aspect between her and God. But it's still her choice. And she still is exhibiting her free will. If the person decides to have the child and not ready to have the child, that person, that baby is left up to the devices of the enemy that's out there. Remember that the enemy is out there, and not all the time that child is going to be placed in the area where he can get love, he or she can get love, he or she can get spiritual guidance, he or she can be put in the placement of someone who's going to nourish them and help them find out who they are, what their purpose are. So it's a lot of different avenues. We just got to remember, just as it all goes back to the creator put the enemy down here too, on the earth, and he's constantly at the heels of man to cause chaos.
Was it just me, or did anyone else think at the beginning of the video when he started to speak of him being a product of, I thought he was, speaking because he was still with this lady who chose to, keep him as a child. But then when he went on to say that he was adopted, it kind of put my mindset in a different, direction at that point. Or was it just me who thought at first he was still with his mother?
So I'm gonna go ahead and tag myself in here. Y'all been splashing around the water. We about to get real wet right now. Yep. Kaboom. We got adoption, we got foster care, we got all this currently in existence, right? We already know these establishments are highly flawed. We know the things that take place in it. We know the type of violence and the type of malice and just despicable, deplorable behavior that takes place. We know about children dying in these foster homes. We know about children dying in these orphanage, these adoption homes, these homes for so-called wayward children and stuff like this. This all exists currently because of the bad choices of mankind. Not just man, women. Women and men. So
look at the little girl, the little girl that her stepmother, her father and stepmother killed her, but the stepmother was still collecting welfare benefits for her.
See,
and she was dead.
we talk about this is what we're about to unleash on these unwanted children, because let's be clear about this. If you're going to force these women to carry these children to term, right? Once these children carry these children to term, they're going to relinquish them to the foster care. They're going to release them to the state. And the state is going to decide what they deem is acceptable. Now, again, if you think for 1 second the state is going to assume a full cost of taking care of these children, you are sadly mistaken. I said it earlier, you will be an indentured slave. You're going to work that off. You're not going to just drop your kid off and leave that to them to take care of. See, they'll make it seem like this was for the betterment of the world, but it ain't going to be what's better for you and everybody involved. And trust me, it will come all back to one individual, the women, because the man that laid down with her to make that child, no matter how he did it, how they did it, it's going to come back down to the woman, because they ain't going to be able to find that man. Like in some cases, true to date. Some of these women are so loyal, they ain't going to say nothing about the man. They're going to take on everything that comes with it. So the same women that don't bring their men up for child support and things like that, and they try to go it alone, I want to see if they have that same energy when it comes time for them to have to pay off this debt, because that's what it's going to be, a debt. It's no longer going to be perceived as a child. It's going to be perceived as a debt. Now, the government will probably get funding for taking care of these unwanted children. But guess who it's going to come from? The people that didn't want anything to do with it to begin with. You're going to have to stop paying taxes on stuff things that don't pertain to you. There's a lot of things that's going to hurt everybody. Everybody's going to be directly impacted by it. You know who's not going to suffer from these ill will and these bad decisions? The people that are deciding what's going to happen to the people that they have nothing to do with. The people that don't reside in your communities. The people that don't have the same type of concerns that you have. The level of suffering that you endure. Those people that make decisions about you are going to be the same ones that are going to make decisions as to how you are going to pay off this debt. So it's not going to be no longer about if the child is aborted and who's going to pay for it and what's right or wrong, if God got anything to do with it. The government is stepping in to do what they've already been doing, and that is taking control of your family and your life. They're taking away your options if you're not paying attention.
Can I add on to that? So currently there are 400,000 children in the foster care system.
Damn, that's a lot.
So
coming for your kids.
So, and then in Massachusetts, there are currently 3,200, give or take approximation. So again, we already have 400,000 children that need care. And you want to add on to that?
Yeah, that's all they're going to do is add
We
on.
are currently still in a formula shortage.
Unwanted, unloved, Massachusetts, and you can't pay to take care of these kids.
We currently don't have enough daycare availability.
Yeah. Now we're going to add the burnout factor in there.
We're going to need more foster homes. We're going to need more social workers, more nurses, doctors on call, because a lot of kids are going to be getting abused and abandoned. We're going to need more safe haven places where people could drop their babies off, because they ain't going to want these kids.
So yeah, it's about to be a disgusting madhouse. It's I mean, luckily in Massachusetts we still have the right to choose, but I just feel like this country just probably quadrupled that number in the next 2 years.
You're gonna also have people migrate to the states where they still have an option. That's gonna be the other thing.
That's what's gonna happen.
So now they're gonna be overpopulated.
And not only that, the thing, Roe versus Wade is going on the ballot this November. So that's gonna be the decision maker right there. If people vote for yes, then if that's what it's gonna be, the state's gonna take over. But if people vote no, then they have to go and go back to what it's supposed to be because they're putting it out there for it to be voted on. So that's why they're telling you to go to the ballots now.
I think that's a disingenuous act because you guys done already made a ruling and now you're going to go put it on the ballot. I think you made the decision, and I think it's already been shown to us that they don't respect the American voting system. So I can't say in all honesty and in good faith that they're going to do this the right way. I just don't see it.
I disagree. I think that first of all, it was told to people that it was on the ballot in 2016, and a lot of people sat home and didn't vote. So, I digress. So 2016, 2020, 2022, it will be on the ballot. If enough people who are outraged and upset about this decision, if they choose the right candidates, they can make if we have the majority, we can make laws that go past and go through and hopefully offset what has happened. But if people get lackadaisical or they, like I said before about that quote about, you voting and you're not choosing your Valentine, you're choosing somebody who is the best choice for making decisions overall. If we don't do that, then we are doomed. But people need to be really know your candidates, vote for who you need to vote for. Don't throw your a non-vote is a vote for the other party. That's all as simple as that.
But again, I would argue that, counter that by saying this is the same crop. These are the same individuals. These are all politicians. I'm going to say whatever I need to say to you and others to get into office. Once I get in there, I'm going to unleash my true agenda. I'm gonna say what I got to say to get there. Now, if let's say we the people are able to overturn this ruling, right? Who's to say it's not going to go right back on the ballot the next time it's up for vote, and they overturn it again?
Because they'll pass a law. See,
laws can be overturned as we just seen, and the good old boys.
Make it harder for the overturning.
Yeah, but them good old boys. Let me point something out to you guys real quick.
They have an agenda and they have a plan, and the problem is they stick together, and we don't stick together. We're too busy fighting over dumb stuff instead of seeing keeping our eyes on the prize.
And you know what the good old boys plans is going to be in the nearest future? They're not only trying to silence the woman for having rights to have abortion, they're going to try to silence the woman's opinion, period, because they're threatened by an educated woman of any race. So what them good old boys going to do to what their plan is, I'm not saying what they're going to do to you guys. Hopefully your voice as a whole will become stronger and you'll keep sitting out there fighting for your rights. But if you choose not to, pretty soon, voting for a president in the United States or probably anywhere, you're not going to be able to vote anymore at all as a woman.
Oh, they're already starting that too. They're already trying to get pass a law where the state can overrule executives or choose their own executives or something. They're already They got a plan.
Yes.
And their plan is 10, 20 years behind our plan. And if we don't get it together, we're going to be living in their world.
Well, you got to think about this too, right? The women, you guys are shifting it, right? They're becoming powerful. The women are the ones that raise the children. The women are the ones that influence the children. The children are supposed to be our future. Who's under attack right now? The children and the women. If you prostrate, if you frustrate these women, how are they going to take care of these kids, right? So in most cases, they are going to decide, oh, if I have any option, and if it's adoption, I'm giving them up because I'm not going to deal with this. And if I can't do what I need to do, then I'm not going to do anything at all. And that includes being a parent. Now the children are set loose. You heard what the crazy lady said. That's the politest word I could find for Miss Singer at this moment. She said, or someone, one of the other ones said, these children are going to end up in prison anyways. So that's their attitude. You might as well abort them.
That was her. That was her.
They're gonna end up in the prison anyways. So if I think less of you as a woman, I don't value anything about you. I don't care if you're a fellow woman. It doesn't matter to me. You're beneath me. So when I'm talking about changes, I'm talking about changes that benefit me. I wonder, does Miss Singer have any children? Because I find that a lot of people that make comments and write books about children and parenting and all that stuff, they don't got no children.
No.
I want to know the same thing because I thought when she was talking that she had a tone to her that let me know that men were not touching her and that she was hated everybody and especially children. So I would love to know as well.
She might have been one of those children
I wanted
that
to
was
ask
put up
this
for
too.
adoption.
The ladies that's sitting up there in the Supreme Court. I hate to sound like I'm asking their sex preference, but do they have husbands or do they have wives?
No, she Amy Comey has a husband, but she's a I think
she's conservative. She has 3 children and one adopted Black child.
Yep, and I think the husband is like Quaker or something like that.
And Sotomayor, I think she's married. I don't know if she has children. And the other woman, I'm not familiar with. I don't know her status, but nobody on the court is gay. They're not doing that yet.
Okay.
Not that we know of.
Yeah,
that's true.
Not that we know of. But again, I dare say the LGBTQ plus community has such influence and authority. If they did decide to come out, they're coming out, and everybody's coming with them. So you can challenge them if you want. That's why I said I want to see if they're going to take up arms and if they're going to march alongside women and parents and stuff like that, the ones that's under attack. Or are they going to wait until they shift their focus? But I don't think it's going to get to that point. I think that the LGBT community is always going to stand alone on the outside, but they will take advantage, ride the coattails, just so they get to a point where they can come back and say, well, we've been treated wrong too. After laws and things have been changed and things been done bad to others, they're going to come back and they're going to benefit from other people's sacrifice and suffering. But that's just my opinion.
Actually, I think this affects, those trans people who want to have children. This would affect them too. So, I mean, because it's not only about, again, they're not only just going about for abortion, they're going for birth control, they're going for In vitro.
Same-sex marriages.
Yeah, that too. But I mean, I'm talking about in forms of reproductive issues.
Yeah.
They're going for all of it. So
I think they're gonna be all right.
And they already trying to get them to ban them from having the surgery to switch their organs, their reproductive organs.
But the reason why I think they're gonna be all right is because they stick together. They really stick together. I think that by the time they shift their focus to them, they're gonna have a strategic defense. They're gonna be ready. You watch it a year from now. Let them go after them and watch and see what happens. You think you seen marching? You think you seen? We just got over pride. You wait and see what happens. You go after them and wait and watch what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, would anybody like to give their closing remarks on our subject? We've been having a very good discussion, yo. Everybody's been taking their turn.
Good.
I appreciate you guys.
Max,
got one
G.
more.
Lacey. I think there might be one more clip that you might forgot about.
Oh, Tech, roll that clip for us. I almost forgot. Yes, we're still in the light of Roe versus Wade. Here is the woman herself.
As a trophy?
Of course. I was the...
Did they use you as a trophy?
Of course. I was the big fish. I was the big fish.
Do you think they would say that you used them?
Well, I think it was a mutual thing. I took their money and they put me out in front of the cameras and told me what to say, and that's what I'd say.
Wow.
I took their money and they put me out in front of the cameras and told me what to say. That's what I'd say.
Wow. Give me an example of what you'd say.
We've gathered here today to pay homage to the children that are being aborted in this abortuary. We're doing this because abortion is wrong. And I, as the former Jane Roe of Roe versus Wade, do regret signing the affidavit for the pro-abortion camps. That was probably about it.
It was all an act?
Yeah. I did it well, too. I am a good actress. Of course, I'm not acting now. I did it well, too.
That really hurts because Jake's it's big stakes. It's just really big stakes.
I had never heard her say anything like this. Never. But I know what we were doing. And there were times I was sure she knew. And I wondered, is she playing us? What I didn't have the guts to say was, because I know damn well we're playing her. What we did with Norma was highly unethical. The jig is up.
All right. Anybody want to give their comments on this? Because it seems like there's a little deceit involved with this whole situation.
That sounds like extra clip from The Exorcist or some other type of demonic story. Like, it just didn't make the cut. Everybody in that, a part of that situation, it just saw a whole bunch of deviltry. And when she was talking about something, but I'm not acting now.
You
again,
can't tell.
I can't be sure. Even
Remember,
with the
she's a
tears,
fine actress.
even with the tears, I feel like if that's a deathbed confession, I mean, I don't. Again, that is just very wicked. That whole situation right there. That video we watched the first time I saw it, I was like, this is just wicked, and I still feel that way right now.
Everything turns back to, well, not everything, but it seems like it all goes back to money. You know, even when Kiana was saying earlier about, you know, you restricting it. Now people are taking flights. You got to pay for hotel rooms. You got to pay for the procedure. Now you got to stay later because you got to recover. It's just a lot. It's a lot. And it's all to do with money. Everyone's getting paid somehow, some way. And, you know, not to get away from the whole topic and nothing like that, but when she just came back and this is the last clip, I'm like, okay, so you got paid to say certain things and people are feeling certain ways. And it's just like, whose word, I mean, are we believing right now?
Wait, hold on, listen to this too. That goes back to what Timmy was saying earlier too. How we know that man that felt he ain't residue wasn't paid to say and act the way he was acting.
Yeah.
But did anybody else see The Exorcist? I mean, did anybody see that movie? Do y'all know what I'm talking about? I feel like the only thing that was missing from that clip was the cross falling down and being upside down. That's the only thing that's missing from that clip. It just seemed real wicked to me.
Well, I got the vibe that was paid for by the Republican Party.
And we all know they don't know which way is up or which way is down. Just look at how
Trump
the
had
daughter
the
was holding the Bible.
This has been going on for decades. Just when are we going to have a conversation on the insurrection? This has been going on for decades.
Yes. Well, I'm telling you, this has totally been thought-provoking. I mean, it's going to make me look at people differently, but I truly, I don't think this is a issue of white or black. I think this is just, even this situation, you can't even look as it's that cut, like clean cut. It's not a black and white issue, black and white picture.
This is left and right.
Yes, it's just, if you listen to these people talking, the left. Why are they called the left?
That's exactly what he said too.
I mean, ain't we supposed to keep to the right? Keep to the right, you always be right, right? That's what we was told. Get to the right of the road and stuff like that.
They keep to the left so they can leave out the people they don't want included.
Well, the left on the political aspect is supposedly be for the people, and the right, the far right, is more of the white supremacists, those political what you call it, the white supremacists, the nationalists. Yeah, they're more on the racist side, far to the right. When you go far,
that's what they would have us believe. Another delusion, another illusion. They it's another diversion. They tell you to go. They tell you to go left when you really should be going right. We're in trouble. That's all I have to say. We are in trouble. That's why support our sisters and other entities like that. You guys, you need to be visible and remain visible and voiceful too. Y'all got to turn up the volume, and you have to become more visible. It's crazy. Y'all's voices are needed. Your presence is needed. You need to be seen and you need to be heard. That's my last comments regarding this matter.
That's the question.
My last comments would be, what's next? That's my last comment. What's next?
Yeah. Yeah, so again, stay vigil, speak up. We can't give up, can't not fight, and
Go to the polls.
take it to the polls in November.
That's
Go
what
to
you
the
gotta do.
polls.
Go to the polls and seek God's wisdom.
Oh, also, if you don't want to go in person, you can vote early, and you can also request a ballot to be sent to you, so you could do a mail-in, and they're able to do that now.
Yeah.
And my final words would be, as usual, I hope this message reaches you and yours well. Reach one, teach one.
All right.
Well, Mr. G. Lacey, you want to take us home?
Yes. Sorry about that. I was trying to unmute my phone. I was walking up the stairs. As I was saying, God sees all. He's the ultimate judge.
Yes, he is.
But I believe in choosing your decisions wisely. Don't allow others' opinions to move your choices. I'm G. Lacey, and this has been another thought-provoking Think About It Thursday. Have a good